Is that a seltzer?
No, it's like a fruity beer.
Nice. Love a fruity beer.
A fruity lager.
Oh.
Jake Tholomew.
Is that what they call Eric Idle in that sketch? Is that why he keeps saying he's okay? He's like, I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I don't take their jests to heart.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Catherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are... the Anidorks.
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, should we jump in?
I guess so. No.
That'll wake the listener up if they're just going...
That'll get us
Good
going.
All right.
Chapter...
Let's do it. Take it away.
Chapter 5. We meet our third and final narrator of the book. It ends here. Esplin 9466, who will one day become Visser 3. Like our other narrators in this book, he feels different from his people. Not just because he was born off of the Yeerk home planet beneath a portable Kandrona. Esplin tells us of his first time inhabiting a host. He waited in a line of other Yeerks, always orderly those Yeerks, even in a pool of their cavorting colleagues, to experience 15 minutes inside a host Ged. Sure, it wasn't a long time, but Esplin says that you have to understand, there were so many untrained Yeerks back then and so few available hosts. Eventually, it's Esplin's turn. The Ged goes under the Yeerk pool. Esplin pinpoints the opening into the head quite easily, extending 2 palps just as he's been taught. So far, so good. He finds the brain, pushes himself into each wrinkle of the brain, and makes contact with his host for the first time. The power! The joy! The ecstasy! The ecstasy! How could all of his studying ever have prepared Esplin for this? Suddenly, Esplin says, I was not just myself. I was something much larger. Where my body ended, a second body began, so that I very soon forgot my own body entirely. This new body, it's huge and powerful, just wonderful. Esplin can see for the first time. He looks at other Geds. He looks around at the inside of this stolen Andalite spacecraft. Esplin looks down at his own pool and realizes how small it is, how insignificant. He sees a Yeerk for the first time, gray and wet and pathetic. And then, his 15 minutes are over. Esplin leaves the Ged host. He's just a Yeerk again, back in a pool that suddenly feels claustrophobically small. He talks to his friends and siblings about their experiences inhabiting a host and finds he doesn't relate to them at all. The experience of being inside a host was, for them, terrifying, sickening, awful. No one understands the joy he felt, the excitement of sight, what Esplin would give just to see again. Only the very best Yeerks will be given the privilege of inhabiting a host. Therefore, Esplin must be exceptional. He must surpass all of his peers. But how? He's no scientist, no engineer. What's so special about Esplin? He remembers seeing the inside of the Andalite ship through the eyes of the Ged. The Andalites, the sworn enemy of his people, who gave them all their stuff and made it so that they could do this. They're enemies. Magnificent, powerful creatures, but those eyes, 4 of them, and those muscular thighs, 4 of them. One day, the Yeerks would fight the Andalites in battle. And yet who among the Yeerks knew the first thing about Andalites? The Yeerks needed someone studying the Andalites. Esplin could do that. He could, take one for the team. A little Andalite reading, a little Andalite research, maybe an autopsy or 2. Learn about the Andalite anatomy, their filthy little mating habits. He could become an Andalite expert, if you will. God, what'd he do to be inside an Andalite just once?
I think this chapter should have been called An Eye for 4 Eyes.
I will say one thing that did not get mentioned super clearly in this, because they stole an Andalite ship, the computers have Andalite records on them. And they've made an interface that allows Esplin 9466 to access those records without being in a host body. And that's what gives him the ability to study, even though he doesn't have a host.
Yeah.
I will say also, so the Hork-Bajir planet was given a -4 designation for being fourth from the sun, and
Thank you for saying the dash. Hey, Miranda, thank you for saying the dash.
You're welcome.
When you said it.
and Esplin 9466 was fourth in line in his Yeerk pool in his group of
They had
6
4 on the brain.
to get on the Ged brain.
Did we talk about that number in the last episode?
I don't think
don't
so.
think
Did we talk
so.
about that? So we missed it. We missed it entirely.
It's not.
in my
It's not really
notes.
important, and it's not that important. I just think there's a cute symmetry here that it is.
I thought it was kind of cool, though. It's like their numbering system for the planets in the galaxy. Like, that's kind of cool. It's
Yeah.
like
What did they? Let's see.
RG21578-4.
Which means that it's around a red giant as its sun.
And they're the 4th planet from the sun.
And then the other is just like numbering where they are in the galaxy, and we don't know a whole lot about that
We
system.
don't know how that works, yeah. But I just thought that was neat.
I love getting to peek inside our good buddy Visser 3's brain here.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Yeerk. He is nothing if not consistent. It all makes sense, even with our little. Now, have we taken some liberties with our characterization of Visser 3? Yeah, we've
Once or twice.
a little
No.
emphasis here.
we
there.
would never. We would never.
But this is still.
We did talk about his production of Footloose, and as far as we can tell textually, he's only ever done Sondheim. So
Yes. Yeah.
Send in the Yeerks. There ought to be Yeerks.
I have a question. All we've seen of the Yeerk pool is that it's a mess. It's just like a sludgy, chaotic pool. I know. You're hearing my bias. I know. But here we're led to believe that they form lines. They form lines.
I know.
And I've never seen a line in a Yeerk pool. Have you?
I haven't been there.
Yeah,
I will say, I also
I
just,
don't think we were looking.
I don't want to go
honestly.
back to the Sondheim too hard, but I did just think of anyone can infest. That's what they say.
They say easy.
Chris, could you report from your time to the Yeerk pool? Have you seen a line?
Yeah, well, so it's like the 2 palps thing is real. That's
yeah,
real.
yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm always using my 2 palps to get a better read on the situation. just out. Just, like,
Just palping around, palpating, if you will.
Being a pal. And then, I think the lines, like, it's like, you know what the line is. Like, it's you grab onto the one of the 4 thighs of the Yeerk in front of you. And
They have thighs?
It's the Andalites. Thighs, yeah. Well, yeah. So Yeerks can also have like mad
massive thighs.
When
Yeah.
Esplin got back to
Massive
his Yeerk
thighs.
morph, he said, "Why have I not been working on my thighs?"
Their thighs.
Yeah.
Thighs are so big, I can't even get my palps
Yeah.
around.
Yeah, I can't
Like,
believe I've
that's
been
so
missing
big.
leg day in the Yeerk pool.
Yeah.
It's fine. No, it's funny though. They do say that the Geds they use for this, they've been using them for a while and they're often old or sick and they don't really know how to fight back. And that's like,
So sad.
it's
so sad.
very sad.
It is very sad. I also feel like there's a certain tone. This is Esplin's first time in a host.
It's true.
And he gets 15 minutes with the host. And everyone gets 15 minutes. And he's
true.
heard a lot about the experience of inhabiting a host from his friends. Nothing prepares him for doing the real thing.
That's true.
And it's, the power, the ecstasy once he's in there.
It's true.
I don't know. I just thought there was a certain vibe.
He just
There
felt
was
so
a certain- you're
powerful
totally
once he
right.
did it. You know what I mean?
He
It
was,
really,
totally
he was
right.
in the
really made him feel
folds
strong.
and, yeah.
Yeah, happy Pride Day. I hear you loud and clear. I got it. I think it's a weird relationship between him and that Ged. It's definitely, it's
No,
not great.
it's not great.
It's a little, it's
not
not great.
great.
The biggest thing that really struck me about this is we learn that he grew up under one of the portable Kandronas.
Yep.
So he is directly Ciro's
He is
fault.
Ciro's third child, I think. I think that's right.
That's true. It's
That's
like
right, they have 3 parents.
you know the other Superboy, the one that's like that Lex Luthor made with his DNA and Superman's DNA against his consent?
No.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like that.
Oh, Chris, I should have said sure. Sorry.
He does.
With me, kid.
Someone pointed out that every single love interest Superman has ever had has had LL initials, mostly Lois Lane, but a couple others, and then the only other person he has a child with is Lex Luthor. And don't give me any of that, it's short for Alexander bullshit. I don't want to hear it.
There's something very sad about Esplin. His experience is so... what's going on here? His experience is so unlike the other Yeerks. I'm very confused who the Yeerks are as a people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them don't seem that hot on having hosts. But we know Esplin is. We know Visser 3 is. Also, just the fact that he gets up there in the Gedhead and looks down, and he just is so... There's so much self-hate going on here. Which does track with what I feel like we know of Visser 3. Like, there's that element to it. He loves his Andalite host. But there was just a lot of complexity here, I thought.
I will say, they say that it is, I mean, their whole thing with getting the humans is because they would have so many hosts. And they talk about here, so few hosts for so many Yeerks. And they've only expanded their Yeerk population since then, I would assume. Especially with bases on other planets and stuff. Even though they can't go back to the Yeerk homeworld, as I think they've already established here, but we actually didn't talk about that the Andalites set up an orbit around the Yeerk homeworld and they can't go back now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If you only have 1/10 of the hosts that you have Yeerks, wouldn't you just give them to the 10th of Yeerks that are power-hungry monsters, if that many exist, and the others would all just be like, okay, guys.
Yeah, just let them, it's like a potluck. Just tell me what you're bringing,
It's like they're only gonna give them to the people who are willing to be ruthless and brutal, and so I mean, Ciro may have been right. 80 to 90% of the population may not have been ruthless and brutal, and the 10 to 20%...
And these are like 80s guys.
Yeah, who got their hands on the ability to go do cocaine and trade on Wall Street have just gone crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of the Yeerks in the Yeerk pools are thinking. We don't even know what they know. There may be Yeerks who have never left the Yeerk pools who have no idea what's going on. We don't know.
Yeah. And it also just isn't... I mean... It almost makes me wish that we had a different narrator here than Visser 3, because I don't... Is there like a brigade of Yeerks who wish they had just stayed on the Yeerk pool even after? Like, encountering Andalites? Like, we don't know if there's a resistance.
I don't know.
I want to hear from any other Yeerk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we do know, though, that the Council of 13 is probably, is in on it. Because there's still a thing.
Yeah, so they must have escaped, which means that Ciro's argument that the Council of 13 couldn't have known about this is false.
And
because the Council of 13 is still around.
Aren't they assassinating
I didn't think about that. That's crazy.
Who knows?
They're plotting.
Yes.
They're plotting.
Yeah.
They would never do that. I think I had that in a note that I didn't transfer over to the notes. I was like, in the first chapter, it's like, the Council of 13 would never approve this. I was like, that's right. They'd never be standing there with tiny knives planning to assassinate each other.
I love also that...
Unlike them.
Visser 3, what we learn here is that he's basically from small town America. He didn't know anything outside his town, but he had dreams. He moves to LA.
He went on Survivor.
He moved to LA. Either works. We'll figure it out. But it's perfect for his backstory in the musical. I mean, he 100%. Once he broke out, he couldn't go back. He realizes just what a large... He was too big of a fish for the... What is the phrase I'm trying to say? The pond?
It's a literal big fish in a small pond.
Oh my God.
Very literal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he really believes that if you drop him in a big pond, he'll still be a big fish, because that's what a lot of people don't realize. You're a big fish in a small pond. They drop you in a big pond. Maybe you're not so big a fish anymore. But this guy, he's got the chops.
He needs a bigger pond.
Yeah,
he always needs a bigger pond. So
always needs a bigger pond.
And the specialization, I mean, the forward thinking, it is very smart to be like, we're going to fight the Andalites. We have to know what we're dealing with. And nobody else was thinking about that. Apparently.
It does sort of feel like, though, like, with that, he's like, does he want to, like, fight the Andalites, or does he want to, like, get with them, or does he want to be them? Like, it's not really clear what his kink is here.
I think
like,
his original plan was get to know the Andalites to become useful to his own people, but then the more he knew about the Andalites, it's honestly very much... It's very much a mirrored story of what's going on with Aldrea and Dakame. It's like, you know, the closer he got to the Andalites, the more he respected them, even if his ultimate plan was not to treat them as real people.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know that, I think respect is part of it. I do think there's there's an obsession. I think he wishes he was
a little bit.
an Andalite. He
wants the power of that body. You know what I mean? He's a slug.
Yeah.
The ecstasy.
Yeah. And I get it.
Well, we should...
I'm a slug. I'd love to not be a slug.
We haven't even met the Taxons yet.
That's true.
We should read on to see what happens.
We should. Chapter 6.
All right, let's do it.
Aldrea narrates.
Yes. Aldrea and Ciro are out for a walk. Ciro asks his daughter, they're actually out for a gallop. Ciro asks his...
A canter.
Yes,
A trot. A sprint.
Ciro asks for his daughter how things are going with her little Hork-Bajir friend, Dak. Ciro's noticed that after 3 months of very punctual work, Aldrea stopped doing her regular data entries. Ciro reminds Aldrea that they're here for a reason, to learn all that they can about the Hork-Bajir. Actually, Aldrea wants to say they're here to watch out for Yeerks. This isn't a scientific mission, but a defensive one. But she keeps this to herself. Instead, Aldrea just assures her father that she is, in fact, learning all that she can about the Hork-Bajir. But all of that learning, it's uncomfortable. It feels a little like spying. Ciro tells Aldrea that she has no reason to worry. The Hork-Bajir are hardly sophisticated enough to even understand the concept of spying. They're physically impressive, yes, but cognitively quite limited. Aldrea challenges this. She tells her father that Dak can read, write, do basic math up to calculus. It's no use.
So basic.
Ciro refuses to believe her. I never got to calculus personally. So Aldrea continues exploring the valley with Dak. But the valley is steep, always at a difficult incline for Aldrea's Andalite body. Dak has to adjust his pace to stay with Aldrea. Normally he'd race through the trees, leaping and swinging. One day, Aldrea notices a small, feathered creature known as a ChaDude. The ChaDude has 4 short legs and 2 elongated arms with claws on the end, capable of darting along the enormous tree branches and then gliding through the air with its skin flaps. Aldrea asks Dak to catch one for her, and then asks if he can keep a secret. Then, she absorbs the ChaDude's DNA.
So it is feathers and skin flaps?
I think so.
It is weird because it seems to me like they're describing a flying squirrel that has feathers.
Yeah.
Which is strange. But
really weird.
This isn't our planet.
Mm-hmm.
The rules aren't the same. Mammals,
got it.
you know, it's not the same. But I had the same reaction. I was like, if it has feathers, shouldn't it be a bird? And I'm like, oh, wait a second. You know, just because I'm a bird who has feathers doesn't mean that everybody's a bird who has feathers.
So
I see what you're
it
saying.
does seem like the fan art is often of something that looks a lot like a flying squirrel. So.
Oh, you found fan art of the ChaDude?
Yes. It is a ChaDude with another creature that we'll meet later.
The feathers are in here. Like they talk about the feathers.
Oh my God. That's
It's in chat too.
not what I was picturing. That's what I got too. I don't like that. It doesn't feel right to me.
No feathers.
Feels
It's not
wrong.
real.
They're supposed to be smaller, eh? They do come in many colors.
Do either of you know so this is I'm saying this based on the fan art that we found, but in a lot of FromSoft games, in Dark Souls and Elden Ring and probably in Bloodborne too, there are these creatures that look like frogs they seemingly have gigantic eyes that are really scary. They're like bulging eyes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
But the eyes are
played
actually
but
like
I've seen
glands.
This.
It's to make you. It's like one of those things to mislead prey.
To mimic.
And the eyes are actually much smaller. There's a tiny little face, and they're always they're always cursed. They can curse you and kill you very quickly.
Yeah, I've seen some of those boys because I go, oh, froggy, and then I'm like, why are you killing the frog? And then it's like, because it's part of the game, and I'm like, you could choose not to, and
Zero sucks here. Zero,
he does. He's not a good dad.
He's a bad dad.
He's not a good Andalite.
He's not a good person. It is not his. How old is Aldrea? Are we supposed to? Is she like animal?
I think she's like 18, 19. No, I think she's older because I think she could join the military, but they're not letting her.
But it is not her job. It is not Barafin's job. It's not even Zero's wife's job. Yeah.
She loves it though because she's a biologist, so she's having fun.
But he seems to be being serious. He speaks to her like it's the whole family's job. To learn about the Hork-Bajir and to protect them against the Yeerks.
You know, I didn't think about it, but Sierra only ever gets one name.
It's true.
And that's very strange. Everybody just calls him Zero.
Right.
Maybe I guess that means that's his first name and they feel like he's not worth saying all his names, but like...
I don't know. Or like the last name is enough. It's hard to say.
But I don't know. He seems to think it's fun to pretend that this is a science mission and that he's not basically in exile.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I don't want to do the science mission because I'm not any good at that. But you're a girl. You're good at science.
Yeah.
So, like, have you been talking to your friend? Like, you used to make such diligent entries, Aldrea. You know, you were such a good student until you started hanging out with that young rebel. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is also the chapter where we get some like communications from the Andalite homeworld about news of the Yeerks spreading throughout the galaxy. Yeah, and there's 2 mentions of 2 new species of alien we will someday meet. I'm sure
Hajabran,
unless we never meet them.
Hajabran, I hope we meet them.
And
the Hajabrans,
Angashik.
Ungashik.
I was calling them Ungachik in my brain.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Ungachik.
I was putting the emphasis in the middle.
I like that. But yeah, the Hajabrans, like, brains were not centralized, so they couldn't get their palps around their brain.
They couldn't, like, split themselves into multiple parts to control all the parts of the brain. And I'm like, okay, I love this because they've told us that they can flatten out and be, like, basically a liquid, but they can't separate their body. So, like, that's something we learn.
And they were so frustrated they just left the Hajabrans to die.
Yeah, they just like
their
wrecked.
Ship's life support had been knocked out in the attack. An Andalite courier had come across the ship drifting with 8,000 Hajabrans frozen in the vacuum of space. Brutal, utterly brutal. News that a group of Ungonkic minstrels.
I do love that I like to think they were a wandering theater troupe.
Yeah. Have been taken and successfully infested. Fortunately for the Algonquin race, they long ago abandoned their home planet. They're so spread out that it's not like they're all going to get infested.
They wouldn't lead them back to the main people. Although, like, because Eddie, you mentioned in the thing that it reminded you of Quarians, and I'm like, but Quarians would know how to get to the home fleet.
Yes,
and these guys, it seems like they can't lead them back to the home fleet, so that's good at least.
Yeah. I hope that we come back to these because they both seem cool.
I hope
was
so
some
too.
Fun lore there, even if it's just like one book, it would be cool to see them.
Yeah, we do also get told that they attacked and stole some stuff from the Skritna, but we've seen the Skritna before, so that's not that exciting.
Well, and at the very end of the chapter, we learn what a secret is.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
The concept of teaching a secret is so, like, it feels wrong. Like, it feels...
Should we roleplay it? It does feel wrong because it's actually kind of the thing that people do in really icky situations if that's where you're going.
Well, like, not even... That is true, but, like, even just, like... I don't know that I was ever someone's first secret. You know what I mean? I don't know that I didn't do that. And I guess kids inherently learn to hide things that they've been taught to be ashamed of.
And it comes with privacy too. So,
yeah. Which they talked about in, what book was that? 19? 18? 19? With when they became the Lyrans.
Yeah.
And they really didn't like being able to look into each other's minds.
Yes.
And the Andalites don't like that. They really value privacy. And the Hork-Bajir literally don't even have the concept of a secret. They don't have a concept of not telling each other things.
Which, Brenda, I hadn't thought about this until you said that, but I would feel like being a seer would come with this experience of privacy because there's some part of your experience that you seem to be unable to share with other people.
That's true. And yet, at the same time, we've seen him try to share it. So he doesn't understand not trying to share it, at least, I think. I think he understands the idea that there are things other people wouldn't understand. So when she says, like, you can't tell your people because it would confuse them, he's like, okay, I can get that. But when she says, you can't tell my people because I would get in trouble, I think that's, like, new for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the idea of not simply telling someone, even if you've done something wrong, is not something that seems to be big in their culture.
Yeah, yeah. There's something more with Zero that I'm interested in talking about, just because his condescension towards other species is so evident here.
Yeah.
And I feel like his condescension towards the Yeerks, that he couldn't imagine that they would be threats, is part of what makes him. He thinks that he's being compassionate towards other creatures, I think, but he's actually underestimating them in this really painful.
Oh yeah,
and yet,
it's gross as hell. It's gross as hell.
And yet at the same time, he wishes he were back with the Yeerks because he thought they were at least interesting to talk to. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, have you learned absolutely fucking nothing?
Yeah.
No, he hasn't. He's like, not only is he like tragic, but he's pretty uninteresting. He's not, there's not a lot going on with him that like motivates me to want to know. Like,
he's not capable of growing.
So
like he doesn't seem like.
Yeah,
right.
And when I first got told about Ciro's kindness, I thought that it was, I don't know, something a little more reasonable than one sort of rogue Andalite prince making decisions. And I guess maybe he had permission, but like from the way Alarin painted it, he was like sort of making decisions or painting a picture to the, what we'll come to know as the electorate of the Andalite, as like, they're harmless. And so they're like, okay, you can do whatever you want, I guess.
Yeah.
And Alarin is like, you are not taking this seriously. And he's just like, but it's fine. It's fine. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And I wanted it to be something more like all the Andalites thought being kind was the right thing to do. And this is just the name that they gave to it. But no.
Yeah.
As I see.
And I feel like there probably was a movement. There was probably a movement of Andalites that believed, like, I feel like he's like got this kind of like liberal thing where he actually managed to come across to it. I feel like maybe he got to come across, he got to signal compassion and being like almost like a good person, a good Andalite, but he actually is like doing this really insidious thing.
Yeah, and I don't think he realizes it. I think it's further evidence of his naivete, but it's not evidence of innocence in his naivete. It's evidence of, like, contempt.
Unexamined.
And yeah. It's like much more sinister than
his biases are problematic. Yeah. No, I agree. It really,
and Aldrea sees it really here. Like, Aldrea can't get through to him. She's trying to say that, actually, I think we're completely wrong about the Hork-Bajir in certain ways.
Or at least this Hork-Bajir. Like, he won't even take that. Yeah. She's like, this one can do math. And he's
I
like,
could
no,
show you that if you just come back. Like,
if you come out of the scoop once in a while.
He just wanted to die in his scoop.
Oh,
that was his
me
plan.
too. Scoop kid's afraid to leave his scoop. Have we done that before?
Scoop kid's life to leave his scoop.
Okay.
Scoop dad.
Chapter 7?
Yeah. Chapter 7. Aldrea warns Dak that she is about to change into a Chadoo. Don't tell anyone. Even her parents do not know that she has this power yet. She used the Esquivel device to give herself the powers without them knowing. Her parents might be worried, as the ability to morph is so new that many Andalites fear it and doubt its usefulness. Aldrea morphs into a Chadoo, and then Dak leads her from tree to tree, saying that he will finally show Aldrea his world. She watches him leap up and scamper and swing through the gigantic trees, laughing the whole time. Dak knows these trees the way that she knows her meadow back home, Aldrea realizes. Dak leads Aldrea all the way back to his tribe tree. The tree is half a mile tall, with the Hork-Bajir living all around its base on elaborately constructed platforms. Dak and Aldrea agree not to tell anyone who Aldrea really is. She waits to demorph until she and Dak are at the very top of the tribe tree, only to reset her morph. Aldrea takes a moment to absorb the view. The steep valley wall above and endless trees in all directions. Aldrea peers down into the deep. that mysterious and unexplored part of the Hork-Bajir planet far below them. She asks Dak what's down there. Terror, Dak says. Father Deep holds terror. Such a cool...
It's really cool.
Such a cool little bit of lore there, yeah.
It's really cool getting to see him take her into his world, getting to see all that. It's very, very cool.
Is this a post-Tarzan thing? Are they tree sliding? Tree surfing? Is that...
Tarzan was after this, I'm pretty sure. Let me check. It's close.
Yeah. Yes, so she becomes a Chadoo. It sure feels like
1998.
Her becoming Chadoo is a callback to Tobias becoming Dude, right? Like, it feels like...
Yeah. You have become ChaDude.
Yeah.
Tarzan came out in 1999, June 1999, and this came out in November 1998. So,
7 months.
Can we take Aldrea being... I feel like we didn't do a real... Like, the geography... oh my God. The geography of this book is... We are so far of the days from that vague quarry. Like...
That's true.
It's true.
Like, we have such a good sense of where this takes place. And I found it the fact that she uses wall to describe the valley kept making me imagine it as being a sheer wall.
So steep.
But it's actually just so steep, right? And the trees are growing.
Because she talks about the reason she can't keep up with him doing that is because she has to compensate for the fact that she's walking at an extreme angle.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to do. And the way the Hork-Bajir get around it is they don't walk on the ground.
Yeah.
They go from tree to tree. So it's like they developed within their environment. And these trees are huge. And they don't talk about the base of the trees a lot, I feel like. I guess they're slanted at the bottom and they grow even up. But like...
Is it possible that some of them poke down below the blue mist? Like some,
it's possible,
like one would imagine, right? Like...
At least some of them have to.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's 50 miles. Yeah, it's huge. They're huge.
She mentions the Untouched Wilds on the Andalite planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because she says as she's looking at the rough bark of the tree that she's climbing, which she says it's so interesting to have switched to this creature that views forward as up or up as forward, rather, where its natural instinct is to scale, and so she's climbing up, but in her mind related to Andalite orientation, she's going forward as if on a horizontal plane, but that's just because it's so natural to the Chadoo to climb up the tree. And she says, small as I was and as large as the tree was, the rough bark looked more like a desert plain from the untouched wilds on my own world, and I want to know about that.
Yeah, and you would think Aldrea, after her experience on the Hork-Bajir planet, if more Andalites had visited here, they might start going, I think we should check the Untouched Wilds because God might be in there. We might meet our creator if
we might find our creators. Yeah. Oh my God, do the Elements live in the Untouched Wilds? I don't know.
Is that just where they've been this whole time? Just like on the outskirts of town coming in?
And it's like, like, why don't you go there? And it's like, I don't know, we just don't. And it's the same, like, mental block that they put on Tobias when he goes to the valley.
Yeah. Also, the audacity
of the
Andalites. That they're like, that area over there, it's untouched. We don't go there. We don't know what's there. You know what we're going to do? Yeah. We're going to go to other planets and just screw them up. Like,
we're going to touch everything. But that, untouched.
Can't go there. Yeah.
It's the Coral Berry Reef. No, it's a wild thing. It's a great little bit of lore. And imagining all the platforms in the trees gives such a hardcore mist vibe.
Oh, yeah.
It's just nice.
Yeah, mist meaning not the blue mist, but you mean the game. Mist,
Mist with a Y.
Yeah. Well, it's just interesting that there is a point later where Aldrea will be revealed to the Hork-Bajir, but here she is slipping by unnoticed, right?
That's true. They get to a safe place at the top of the thing, and I think he says something like, she says, like, we can't let people see me, and he's like, they wouldn't understand if they did.
Yeah.
Or that might be like that might be what he said when she was like, you can't tell your people about this. And he's like, they wouldn't believe or understand me if I tried to explain it to them. So like.
Yeah. Should we read on?
Chapter 8?
Let's do it.
Esplin, aka Young Visser 3, continues to educate himself about the Andalites. Before long, he is the reigning expert on the species. And yet, no one cares. No one takes Esplin seriously. Then, one day, Esplin is called in to the infestation pier. A new host to try. How exciting. He enters the ear without asking any questions and folds into the brain. Already he can tell this creature is very different from the Get. Excellent hearing, wonderful vision. But the feeling of this new body, it stuns Esplin. This is no Get. This body is fast, powerful even. Dangerous. Esplin likes. He tries to access the creature's memories only to find the creature resisting him. Esplin dominates the mind, forcing it into submission. The exertion of power thrills him. He flips through the memories, learning what he can. The species strips bark for food, leaps through trees, passes down stories from one generation to another, yada yada. 2 other Yeerks, both in Ged hosts, await Esplin's analysis of the creature. Janath 429, an elder, and Actor 1154, the leader of the Yeerk uprising against the Andalites. Esplin reports that he is satisfied with this host. Yes, these creatures will become their weapons. Actor, war-horny as ever, is thrilled to hear this. He announces that they will seize control of this planet and build the foundation of the Yeerk Empire there. Huzzah! Yeerk Empire, Esplin thinks. No one's ever spoken of a Yeerk Empire before. Janath asks what the creature is called. Esplin is surprised. These 2 did not even learn the name of the creature before they doomed the entire species. Esplin searches the memory until he finds his answer. Hork-Bajir, Esplin tells them. Hork-Bajir.
You. Actor.
You.
Tony?
It is a bit of a wild chapter. There's not too much. I mean, like, mentally beating him into submission is, like, horrifying.
Yeah.
But, like, it's mostly we learned that there's a warm intimacy of the Yeerk pool, and that's why others don't want to leave it. They like it in there.
No one told us about the warm intimacy. I think we would have handled these books very differently if we knew about the warm intimacy. Like,
it sounds very cozy.
I'm not so sure about that. I think they warm intimacy to them is brutal.
Well, Chris, okay,
that's fair.
Chris,
That's
drop
fair.
the mask. We know you're Yeerked. What's it like?
Okay, it's like getting. It's like, you know, when you, like, your bed is made and you get into your bed. I'm trying to think of, like, terms you would understand.
Okay,
So
yeah.
Get into your bed. You're, like, all nice and clean. You're in your jams. Your ear doesn't itch because I've been in there a while. And
Apparently you can numb it. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, I hear they have like a numbing gel they can use.
It helps with the pain, but not the itch. The itch is always there. But so you get into bed and, like, yeah, it's like, it feels really, just like, someone took, like, a bunch of steel wool and dragged it over your skin. It feels like that.
That's
and
bad.
then there's sort of a burning sensation that comes after.
I would say that's bad.
Yeah.
It feels amazing.
For you?
But some people really, no, for me, I want to be where the people are. But
I want to see him dancing.
Exactly.
Walking
but
around
some
on
people
those.
just-
What do you call them?
What do you call them?
Feet?
Meat sticks. The point is, yeah, no, it hurts. It hurts a lot, but some people are really into it.
That's
like,
true.
I would say the majority of yours.
I want to pivot a little bit, and maybe you're so far down the Yeerk timeline. You know, your Yeerk is so young that you may not have a lot of knowledge about this, but Esplin is 9466, and he's only a double because he's a twin. So that means that he is actually Esplin 946, and the double is his twin, right? So we get that Janath 429 is a very old Yeerk. But the leader of the rebellion is Actor 1154. So, is Visser 3, Esplin 9466, older than Actor 1154, or is Actor 1154 simply from a different, older pool on the Yeerk home planet?
I think Esplin's baby, right?
That's what I feel like.
Yeah, I'm getting Esplin's baby.
So Actor must just not be of the Sultanyar pool.
Yeah.
Right? He must be from a different pool, and he came in a Ged host. I'm sorry, he absconded in a Ged host. so that he was a Ged when he left with them. And
I just got it.
I think both can be true.
What now?
I mean, judging from Esplin's narration, and Actor seems to take after him. So,
given that they need 3 to make a baby, it seems like they're
just always coming.
Yeah, but
or going.
You never know. This eternal obsession with coming and going. In Japanese, the verb to go is used, and I read a piece by someone who was analyzing the difference in the idea of arriving versus leaving.
I can smell the title of that piece.
I have a question.
Come and go, quick stop. Sorry, go ahead.
Actor will come up again.
He will.
Janeth, why is here? Why is he here?
Why is Janeth here?
Yeah, nobody cares about Janeth.
Yeah, I don't know.
Janeth's just
He's
old.
a Yeerk elder.
I think because he's old, and the elder Hork-Bajir got named, and I think maybe also just to draw attention to the fact that Aldrea's mother does not get a name.
Yeah. Well, so what I was kind of thinking though is Janeth would have been a great opportunity to
name for a mother.
Janice. Janeth would have been a great opportunity to show us this different perspective on hey, why do we have to go and take over everyone? He doesn't
even really talk.
No.
He's just here.
Yeah. No, I think they're just trying to build out the lore. I think that when we gave the Hork-Bajir some names, but I mean, the thing is, with someone like Esplin, it's he's gonna steal the show.
Yeah.
I'm sure those people were saying things in those scenes, but Esplin just wasn't listening. Yeah. It was just,
he had his
kind of like me on this podcast.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's like how I'm constantly just thinking about how my next joke is gonna be so baller. Yeah. And that, really, it's just you two really teeing it up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what we're here for, Chris.
Yeah. All right, I'm not going to talk the rest of this.
Wait, I have one more thing. I want to ask about the Ged. Is it possible that by the time the Andalites even met the Ged, and is this maybe the implication, they were so worn down by having their brains colonized by the Yeerks that they're kind of lobotomized? Is that?
Yeah, I think that might be the case.
If they thought they were symbiotic, they were I don't even know how they made that determination. The Andalites just aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
They just show up. It's how they were seeing feudalism everywhere when they would go.
But they have to maintain those nice lawns that they have on the spaceships with the 3 different colors of grass, so.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta do what you gotta do. But it is just it's what the hell were they on about? The Geds have to be, I don't know, maybe if you have next generation Geds where they never were not Yeerked or something, or I don't know, how does that work? If the size of the head is important, it's you have to wait till
we never hear about how long Geds live and whether or not they control their mating after their or the Hork-Bajir. Yeah. I guess it's because it would be creepy to put in a children's book.
Because K.A. was afraid to answer the question. And that's why when we get her on our new podcast called Applegate, we're going to get to the bottom of these conspiracies.
And listeners will know it is an old idea, but because we have not yet released Applegate, it is forever new. So
that's true.
It is forever new. It's also you guys are really good at listening to all our episodes. You're very nice about it.
We love you a
lot.
We know we can make a reference like that. And
I'm not crying, you're crying. And if I am crying, it's because of Hork-Bajir Chronicles.
Oh, yeah.
I keep
Why? Nothing sad's about to happen.
Eyes.
Chapter 9.
No.
7 weeks have passed since Aldrea morphed a ChaDude. She has morphed it many times since then. Enough that Dak has learned that he prefers when Aldrea is herself as an Andalite, even though it means he must accommodate her. Dak has come to care about Aldrea. Aldrea asks Dak what that sound is that she hears. She's heard it before nearly every night. Dak answers that she is hearing the speaking trees, the Hork-Bajir means of communication between tribes. There are 2 other tribes in the valley, he explains. He explains how the speaking trees work, how the Hork-Bajir stretch rain-soaked vines between high and low branches, then draw a strong sapling across the vine to create a resonance. Tonight, the notes are low, long, and sad. Dak translates for Aldrea, revealing that 3 of the southern tribe have been taken by the deep. New monsters have emerged from Father Deep. Dak continues. Smaller creatures with 2 legs and long arms. Aldrea grabs Dak's arm. Usually he likes when Aldrea touches him, but this time the touch is different, urgent. She asks Dak to send a question back to the southern tribe about these new monsters. Do the new monsters walk in a clumsy, unbalanced way? Dak calls the question back to the tree. He and Aldrea listen as the speaking tree transmits the question across the valley. Soon, they receive a response. Yes, the new monsters walk as though their legs are different sizes. This confirms Aldrea's fear. The Ged are here, which means the Yeerks have arrived on this planet. Suddenly, Aldrea does not believe Dak was born a seer to meet the Andalites. His mission is to protect his people from the Yeerks.
The speaking trees are so
Yeah.
cool.
They're
so fucking
They're
cool.
called, they have to be made out of a very old Nawin tree, apparently.
Yeah, that's hollow on the inside.
The trees become hollow with age. One vine must be 10 times the height of a Hork-Bajir. The second must be 7 heights, the smallest 5. 2 Hork-Bajir climb out on the branches and hold a long, straight sapling. The sapling is drawn across the vine. So we can actually figure out the notes if they're all well, no, I guess we can't. But
Yeah, because we don't know the
tension.
viscosity or tension of the strings.
Well, but we know the ratios of the lengths. We just don't. But unfortunately, that doesn't correlate to pitch.
But Chris,
yeah, because we don't know what the strings do.
could we hear
What those strings do.
your best impression of the speaking tree? Do you think we could?
It would probably be like, okay, all right, speaking tree. So I have like these 3 strings inside me. Okay, ask me something.
Do they move?
That's what it sounds like.
Well, that's different than I imagined, but that's helpful then because I wasn't hearing it correctly in my.
Yeah, no, it really helps.
Yeah. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Shit. Interrupting speaking tree.
Okay.
Interrupting speaking.
I didn't want to do it. It was too scary the first time.
I was expecting a much lower sound with being 5 to 10 heights of a Hork-Bajir.
We were both expecting it.
Well, you know, what it turns out is these rain-soaked vines are at a very high tension already. You know what I mean? It turns out that that they're
very high tension.
What do you think? So clearly, Ciro and Aldrea's mother have been hearing the speaking tree. Do you think either of them have really looked into where that sound might be coming from? Like, it seems like that's pretty big.
It seems like something her mom would
Yeah.
want to look into because she has her mom look into how tall the tribe tree is. Although she doesn't act like she talked to a bunch of Hork-Bajir when she did it, so I don't know how she measured it, I guess with instruments of some kind. But like, you would think she'd be interested in a giant hollow tree, but I guess it sounds like there aren't that many of them. It sounds like there's really just like one around each village that they use to talk to each other. So unless the Hork-Bajir told you about it or you happened to stumble across it, I think it would be pretty easy to miss. You would hear the sounds, but you wouldn't know. They say there are monsters in the deep.
It's true, but they've been there a while and they're like, and they have no performative culture. They have no.
Yeah.
And
And she's like, it's almost like music. And I'm like, some would say it is.
Some would say it's just music.
Even if it is being used to communicate a
Yeah.
direct literal message instead of just a beautiful, instead of just being used for its beauty, like it is still like music. Like
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, this chapter is crazy. Like the book is so good with just adding all these nice, like very specific to each alien group, like details. And the speaking tree is such a nice thing. And then to just turn and use that as a device to then inject action.
Yeah.
Into
to
the
have
story,
it
like
not just
where
be
it's
a
like,
cool thing, but to be
Right.
the mechanism by which we learn something really
Plot
important.
device.
Yeah, and
Right.
presumably the southern tribe is the one that the Yeerks have already. Yeah, like those are the ones that we're encountering in the other, in
Exactly.
Esplin's chapter.
The other thing that hit me, I talked a little bit about Flowers for Algernon earlier, or that might have been last episode, I don't know. But I talked a little bit about Flowers for Algernon, and there's a moment in this chapter where Aldrea is saying to him, like, can you ask them a question for me? And she's afraid of something. And he says, "What is it that you fear, Aldrea?" And she says, "I'm not sure." And he says, "You do not know if your fear is realized, Aldrea, but you know what your fear is." And she laughs and she says, "You keep surprising me, Dak. Every day you're sharper, smarter. You learn so quickly. Your use of language, your perception, it's incredible. You could enroll in any Andalite academy tomorrow." And he cuts her off and is like, I also know how to tell when you're avoiding answering the question. But so, like, when I think about Flowers for Algernon, something that's like, the basic plot of the book, for people who don't know, is there is a mouse that they are giving a new experimental treatment to make it smarter.
Pinky in the brain.
And they're measuring it by the fact that it solves the maze faster, and they start to give it to a man who is mentally disabled, and he becomes much, much smarter. He had been going to classes at a night school, and he had sort of fallen in love with his teacher. And he was in love with her, and she's teaching him, and then, there's like a back and forth and whatever, and things happen. And by the sort of end of the book, he's losing it, and they realize he's going to die as he loses his intelligence, because that's what happens to Algernon, and he has to cope with the fact that he knows that happened to Algernon and that's going to happen to him. And most people see his decline as like the most tragic part of the book, and it is tragic as he's dying. But like, to me, the most resonant part of the book was when he realized that he was now on a level where he couldn't connect with the people he had wanted so desperately to connect with before, but for a different reason. So, like, he realizes he's on a date with the teacher whose name I can't remember, which is really funny because I played her in the stage version of this. And they're on a date, and he like realizes that he's outpaced her, and that what he sought in her is not there anymore. So it's still there, but he's beyond her. And the reason he had looked up to her, he doesn't see that anymore. And so, like, that moment where he realizes he's different for a whole different reason now was, to me, always sort of the great tragedy of Flowers for Algernon, even though the fact that he, falls off and dies is like sad, but like those extremes were what it was sort of highlighting, you know what I mean? And like, so her having this moment with him, I think, highlights a moment that he's already had with his own people, where he realized he had outpaced his own people a long time ago. And he has now met Aldrea, and he's realizing he is becoming smarter, maybe not smarter than Aldrea, but smarter than Aldrea thought he was going to be. And it's going to be a massive change in their relationship.
Well, it does really open up them being adversaries.
Yeah.
Like, it puts them on a playing field that, like, is more contentious.
Exactly.
He's suddenly kind of threatening in this way. Yeah.
Exactly. And it will take her a while to see it, and he will be spotting that she is lying to him and that she is not taking him seriously and all these things. And like, that to me just reminded me of that moment in Flowers for Algernon where I go, he can't enjoy any of the things he wanted to enjoy through learning because he has now realized he's beyond that.
Yeah.
And so that just like, I don't know. I got really emotional when this happened in the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
I have one quick question. Why do they just think all monsters come from the deep? Why do they think that why does the Southern tribe think that they're being taken into the mist?
I think that's the most likely explanation. That's how Hork-Bajir have gone missing in the past, and they didn't see them get taken, is what I'd imagine. And so when they didn't come back for probably a set number of days, they just made the announcement that they'd been taken by monsters in the deep, would be my guess.
Their whole idea of anything unknown is contained to the deep. So, yeah.
That must be what happened.
Yeah. Unless you're Dak, who literally saw these creatures come down from the sky, which is what...
Right, and even if they had, I don't know that they'd have understood it, but like, I don't think they saw it. Otherwise, they'd be like, something strange happened today, not like they were taken by the deep.
Right, yeah.
Shall we finish out?
Yeah, let's round it out.
Let's do it. All right.
Chapter 10.
Aldrea tells Dak about the Yeerks, how they are different from Andalite and Hork-Bajir. Dak asks if the Yeerks are predators. Not predators, Aldrea answers, but parasites. Aldrea realizes that the Yeerks must already be orbiting the planet. They may be able to intercept her father's daily report back to the Andalites, which he should be broadcasting holy shit just about now. Aldrea rushes back home to her father. Of course, it's too late. Her father has always been precise, and that precision means that even as she arrives back at the scoop, she's already 15 minutes too late. Aldrea can imagine every detail of her family's life as it's happening right now. Her mother working at the computer, her brother playing a game, her father dreaming his hopeful dreams. Aldrea likes imagining her family like this. That is the picture I want to hold on to forever, she says. Not what happened next. Which is probably fine. Probably fine.
She's running up.
Yeah.
She can see the outline of the scoop, but she can't quite see them,
I think she saw that Barafin, lost his round of college.
Or, you know what?
And that's going to be really hard for him.
She's thinking, they're so happy right now. After she tells them that she's dating Dak, which, honestly, they probably already know. She thinks everything's going to change.
But they're not going to get it.
And
then, of course, when I mention the Yeerks, it's really going to sour the mood. So I want to remember them before they knew about the Yeerks.
Yeah.
Because Zero doesn't like to think about that because, what happened, back on the other
he doesn't really like it when people bring up the Yeerks. No. So she knows he's going to get a little touchy about it. And it's just going to be an awkward dinner.
Welcome to the scoop, where nothing could possibly go wrong.
Of course.
Sorry, possibly go wrong. That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!